Hello and welcome to a special edition of Fantasy Saviors. I'm Stephen Villani here with my good friend Sean McGee, and today we have a special interview. We are interviewing Big Papa McGee. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I'm so happy that the draft was here. Now what do we do?
That's true. We really don't have a lot to do now, other than what we have in store for you guys today, as talking about fantasy football, and we're gonna get you look forward to next year. So my first question to you is, who has been your favorite fantasy team that you've drafted so far?
Well, first I just want to say that it really is, it is an honor for you guys to be in my presence today. I am a 30-year veteran of this.
Give a little
this
background
thing.
on yourself.
You think you guys would know what's going on with this,
We got a big. Like he said, we're gracious to be in his presence.
No, as you can tell, I was glad. I was very happy. Sean asked me to write that article about what it was like, back in the day. But I've been through a lot with this fantasy stuff, and it's definitely a joy and a passion. But 30 years of doing it. Running a league for 25 years and learning the ins and outs, and you learn something new every day, that's about it.
That's the only thing that's happened in 30 years.
In 30 years, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into
everything.
Okay, now, Steven,
yes, now
let's ask. You can ask your first question.
The first question: who has been your favorite fantasy team that you've drafted so far
in your 30-year career?
Well, probably my 2012 team. When I think back of the cast of characters and it's not like I don't think it. You always look at one guy that carries you. I had Arian Foster that year, and he was a beast, and but I had Peyton Manning on that team. I had Des Bryant, and I robbed Jimmy Graham that year. So I had so many good players that year that it was like. Because what's the hardest thing? The hardest thing in fantasy, in my opinion, is roster decisions every week because you always mess up. And you get, and I don't even think you mess up. When you have good decisions to make, you sometimes when you have too many decisions to make, you're going to make one bad, and somebody's going to do better than the other. But this league, this time, I didn't have many decisions to make because I just had to start these guys and let them go.
I think that was a pretty good answer, if you ask me.
That shows maybe teams in the NFL should call you for a GM position. Because you're so good at drafting, it looks like. It sounds like.
I don't win. I'm talking about the year I won. The misery years when your team is just awful. Like Sean had that last year.
We don't want to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. That was a one-time thing.
Oh, we'll see.
And this year, I'm winning it all.
I thankfully have made it to the championship 3 years in a row in my league, so I'm looking forward to next year. I'm hoping to make it 4 in a row. I'm hoping.
But I got to say, think when I look back at it, one of my friends, and he's a friend, an enemy, a nemesis. He calls himself the king of football, and he drafted that another year when his team just dominated. Was the year that he had Randy Moss and Tom Brady on the same team, and it was one of the most impressive duos to have because talk about running away with it. I mean, those guys were ridiculous that year. I mean, it was a cakewalk for him that year. So that was the deadliest combination I saw on the same team. I mean, I had Peyton Manning to Eric Decker that year, but I can't say Eric Decker was so dynamic that I needed.
There's no
Eric Decker, touchdown, Eric Decker.
Hey, he had the game-winning one against the Patriots. I'll never forget that.
Steve, what's the next question?
Next question is, what older fantasy football method do you wish was still in effect today? Because we know we've seen a lot of evolution with fantasy football. You mentioned in your article that...
Especially technology side.
Especially the technological side.
Yeah.
Now we're drafting on computers as opposed to you had to call in and all that. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with we draft by computers now. And to me, that's the worst. I hate that. I hate every draft that I have to do online because you're not in the room with the guys. There's no chance to bust balls over picks. There's no chance to ooh and ah over a pick or feel the anxiety or feel the anger that you just swooped up somebody else's guy that he thought he was going to get. You can't feel it. That's why, when I do the draft, one thing we insist on now. I'm older now. I mean, I know I don't look it. I'm really young and good. But I'll tell you this. The best part of our year, and I think I mentioned it in the article, it's Christmas. Draft day is Christmas. You want to get together with these guys. I don't see them as much, so when we get together, a live draft is essential, and I don't think enough people do it because that's what makes the league fun is the live draft.
Right,
so that's the thing. That's the thing I wish everybody did. And listen, we have a guy that moved down to Georgia. Guess what he does? He comes back every year for the draft.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean,
that's dedication right there.
Right,
That's the type of stuff that every fantasy football league looks for.
Well, yeah, and it's like one of the things I know you wrote about in the article, the evolution of fantasy football, was the friendship aspect of it, and now you've been friends with these guys ultimately, and you go against them in fantasy, which everyone does, but you've had that friendship for 25, 30 plus, 25, 30
well, don't
years.
get me wrong. If you saw us talking in a room, you wouldn't think any of us were friends. I mean, I mean, we kill each other, but we do love each other. It's the funny part of it. But yeah, that's the part that's missing. And I think it's easy to quit a league that you just were online once in a while, like, I don't want to do that one anymore. I'll try something else. And, that's why listen, I think the DraftKings stuff and all that stuff is good. I don't do any of it. But because this is what I love. I like doing it the way I love doing it. Maybe I'm too old school with that regard and not fully evolved yet, as I like to say. But I do think it takes some of the personalness out of it. That really, what is sports all about, right? They're about bringing people together, and that's kind of what the draft tried to do. Now it kind of brought us together as a country in a hard time right now, and it was really about the hope of the future that was going to be better for the draft. So it's good stuff, football.
I think you could say that's what we're doing right now, is
that's
giving
exactly what
giving
we're
other
doing, yeah.
sports fans hope.
Oh, Sean, I've seen you grow up. If you're giving us hope, we're in trouble.
All right, so I'll move on a little bit, and we touched on earlier about a little bit about drafting. So, in your opinion, what is your favorite draft strategy?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because the drafting has evolved so much over the years, and there's different types of drafts, In a follow-up article that Sean asked me to write, I talked about how our own draft has changed. Like we used to be a straight
I have
snake.
not posted yet. I'm still editing.
Yeah, he takes out all my curse words. I don't like So, but anyway, because it wasn't until this year that we actually tried a new type of draft because I think the best, purest draft is the auction. I think it's the best way to draft because you have a shot at every player you want, and you can't say, oh, I wasn't picking in the top 4 places, so I never had a chance at Zeke. Well, now everybody has a chance at Zeke. You know what I mean?
So how does that coincide with your opinion on the fab amounts of money and all that? Yeah.
Well, rather than go back in history, I just want the way that we draft now. I want to talk about because I think it's kind of unique. I'm not even sure a lot of people are doing this, but we do a combination auction and snake draft. Okay, and really the characters in our room really made it fun because your first 4 picks, everybody gets an imaginary $100 to auction on. Okay, so now you all have a chance at Zeke. You all have a chance. at Kamara. You all have a chance to get Mahomes. Everybody has a chance to get him if they want to get him. It's just a matter of how much money you want to spend. So once your $100 is up, you can't bid anymore, but you can still fill out those first 4 picks. And then we stop the draft. We do a shot. And then we fill out the board to the top 4 picks on, and then we do a regular snake starting with round 5. So rounds 5 through 16 are a snake from that point. But it's a lot of excitement in the room doing it that way. Now, I don't think our guys would have the attention span to do a full auction for 16 rounds, because, and I don't think they'd be sober enough by the end of the draft to do it. So, but it was a real fun way to do it this year. So it's kind of when I think about strategies in those formats, it was different from how those strategies were different way back when. But yeah.
Especially now, the running back position itself has evolved, and it's made it a whole nother, I guess, level higher than as if you were to get like a wide receiver 1 in the first round. Whereas if you get 2 running back 2s, it might end up being better.
Well, exactly right, and I think there was a trend for a while there where you kind of went and I'm not going to say that I'm the guy that thought of this first, but back when everybody would just try to get a running back right away, when Tim Brown was around, I picked him first in the first round once and went away from that trend, and I had a pretty successful year. And then later on, you started to see a buddy of mine, the king of football, the guy I talked about before. One year he went wide receiver, and we thought we thought he was nuts, but he got the 3 wide receivers that carried his league, and then he filled it out with running backs. And then you started reading about that stuff too. So and that's what I think that the greatest thing to do is not read about strategies, but try to come up with your own, and sometimes even in the moment of the draft say, wait a minute, look how this is going right here. I am not going to take another running back right now, or nobody's taking Mahomes and it's round 3.
Right.
I'm going to do this, and maybe it doesn't make sense according to the cheat sheets, but you got to go with your own feeling, because how many times do we go back at the end of the season and look at a cheat sheet and say that cheat sheet was terrible? It was awful. Why did I even pay attention to this advice? So you got to you got to go with your own stuff, you know.
So I got a question going off that. So you just talked about the cheat sheets. Do you think cheat sheets, if I can say it properly, cheat sheets have helped people or fantasy owners or hurt them?
It's a good question. I think in some ways, like, there's so much information out there, and every site wants to be the site that gives you the guy, right? And so then they reach for guys because they just want it, and then they reach for a guy that maybe, and you go and get him early and you realize this guy was terrible, but they just, in case the guy goes off, they tout him, and then they say, see, we told you about that guy. But then if they don't, well, yeah, we could see, he was a rookie. I took him in round 3, based on what you told me. That's so I think cheat sheets can be a crutch. That's why you have to watch. That's why you have to read, and believe it or not, the preseason does matter in a way because I think the best test is the eye test. That you got to watch your guys. I mean, that's the year, and I talked about it in the article. That's the year that nobody was talking. Isaac Bruce, I saw play 2 preseason games that year, and I thought, wow, I'm getting this guy. This guy's really good. I mean, and that was at a time back. I'm saying whenever he was around the late 1990s, and I called him out, maybe early 1990s. I said Isaac Bruce. 4 guys in the league go, who's that? And now that never happens, right? Yeah. I mean, we are so.
There's no sleepers anymore.
Sleeper. That's why your gut is more important than the sleeper list, because so the cheat sheets are really good. Now, why is the cheat sheet pretty good? Because now guys my age now, I mean, some of my guys have kids now. They're busy. They can't. So anybody can kind of come into a draft and still be fairly competitive in the draft by following a cheat sheet. But I don't think you win it. I don't think you win this thing by just going by cheat sheets. I think you have to really do your own homework still to this day,
Yeah, and going off the topic of the draft, I want you to give me a favorite moment of yours just in the draft. Not even just overall. I just want a favorite moment of yours in your 25 years of drafting with your friends.
Yeah, this was a ridiculous part. We're in round 2. This is before we did the auction, because last year and one of my buddies, who's called the Nutty Irishman, that's his nickname, and he is nutty. He's nutty with trades. He's nutty when you talk to him, and don't make him angry. And he's usually angry anyway. But all of a sudden, round 2, Tennessee Titans wide receiver, he calls out Kendall Wright, and when I tell you that the entire league went silent. Like, nobody really wanted to call him a jerk because he would kind of kill us, and it was the worst pick ever, but it was the most shocking moment to this day. So I bought him a bottle of Kendall wine the next year, because I won it that year before, so I gave him a bottle of wine that had word Kendall on it. So because that's what that's who he drafted. But and then he tried to rationalize it. Nah, if this guy scores touchdowns, now he made sense about his pick, but nobody he could have had that guy in round 7, and he took him in round 2. So and that's the part that we were like, man, and that's when that's going way off the reservation of the cheat sheets, right? And guys in my league will do that. They'll go off the reservation. It backfired, but sometimes it can work for you. But and I think that's a dangerous thing to do too in fantasy, by the way, is reach so high for a sleeper because you touted him just because you don't want to, that you ruin. You can't reach for a guy that early. Your reaches should happen after you have some kind of at least 4 players that are a core of your team, and then go ahead and try some outlandish stuff and see what happens. Okay. I don't know if I went off task there a little bit, but
that was fantastic. Yeah, considering this is your really first podcast, maybe in your life.
It ain't the first time I talked, though, Sean.
You're really gonna have to do me like that on my podcast tonight, or Steven and I's podcast that we create. Anyway, now going over overall, right? You meet up with the guys in your league throughout the season, right? In the article you wrote, you said one time a guy traded fries and a pint of Guinness for Troy Aikman.
Right.
I'm sure you have plenty of other good stories too, or even you could talk about that one, or maybe another funny story.
You mean talk about the one you just snooped? I was gonna talk about that.
He had it in his head.
Yeah. What Sean?
I'm sure if you played 25 years of fantasy football, you have stories just as good as that.
But I was drunk during a lot of those years, so I don't remember all of them. Okay, I mean I was going to talk about that one, that's a pretty funny one.
Oh,
but
okay. So elaborate.
What?
Elaborate on the story.
Well, one funny story was when I think it might have been the year that he had Brady to Moss. The king of football is kind of a loud, big personality. Sean's been out with him at the bar a couple of times when we've watched some football on Sundays together, so he won the league, and to bust his chops, I paid him in all singles. in a bag. I said, "Here's your bag of money." So he sat at the bar. He sat at the bar really mad, like sorting out all the singles. So that was a little bit of a funny time. He still wasn't very happy about that.
Now the next thing you got to do is, if you don't like the winner, you got to give him a bag of nickels.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
That would be bad. That would be
I know
really.
the singles are bad, but giving him a bag.
Plus
of
two,
nickels.
I don't know if I can carry all that.
Now you just mentioned that. I kind of want to ask, since you've been the commissioner for 25 years, what has been one of the hardest things, or like, I guess craziest things you've had to resolve, or a hard thing you had to fix?
Well, yeah, because my guys fight all the time. Sometimes I feel like I'm a marriage counselor instead of a commissioner. I mean, guys get so bent out of shape over stuff, and it's like, so one time, this happened recently too. Like the guy that was the king of football wanted.
Wait, this seems like a trend that the king of football is always in this.
Well,
situation.
I'm gonna tell you that I am the commissioner, but the king of football is a dominant voice in our league. And you know what? And that's the other thing about being a commissioner too, is like I don't run it like a dictator. I don't say this is the rule, take it or leave it. We vote on everything and get together. But when you vote on stuff, there's politics, and the king is a big politician. He tries to get his people in his camp when he wants a rule, and when I want a rule, I get the people in my camp. So I wanted to do that auction thing a while back, but I didn't have enough votes. So, and then the king of football came over to me and said, "I think we can get this to happen." And then we started to do it. So we have all these little political infighting and stuff like that happens.
You got your own little clicks.
Yeah. Oh, there's clicks. I got my brother's in the league, and he's my brother and a rival. We got all guys that we grew up with are in this league. Guys we all went to high school are in this league. And so it's those rivalries all happen. What was the question again, Sean? I forgot.
Well, you kept rambling on, but I was saying, what's like a situation you had to resolve as a commissioner, or one of the hardest ones?
Oh, yeah, so now with the FAB thing, which I kind of love as a commissioner because it's out of my control. I used to have to sit by the phone, take everybody's list, and then we used to do like almost a draft thing by phone, and then Instant Messenger came along. We would be online at the same chat rooms kind of stuff. But now the FAB does it all for you. But so last year, or a couple of years ago, the king of football put in the wrong Smith. He wanted one of the Smiths on
probably Steve Smith.
No, he was a backup running back on
Rod Smith.
Yeah, he was a backup running back on the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and
Rod Smith.
So he wanted to put him in, but he put in a fullback Smith that was also on that team.
Yes, there was two
right.
Smiths.
And so he called me up and he said, Jim, I put in the wrong Smith. Can you just change it? But I'm like, well, I don't know, because you're the one that put it in. He goes, all right, I'll change it. So I went to go change it, and then the Nutty Irishman came along and goes, "Why are you changing it for him?" And then a big fight ensued about why I was doing all that, and so now Eamon got pissed off. That's the king of football. He got mad, but we kept it as it was, and that was a big fight and all that stuff. And then we saw each other again, a couple weeks later, and we all buy each other a beer, and it's all good. But but in the moment, everybody's really heated about this stuff. Right. It's nonsense. So what happens last year? Eddie puts in the wrong guy and wants me to change it. And I go, I ain't changing it for you. I go, isn't that ironic? You didn't want me to change it for the king, but now the Nutty guy wants to change for him. So but all those little things pop up and weird things happen where, a kick, people hate this rule, especially Nutty Irishman, but CBS limits you sometimes. Like, if your guy fumbles the ball, it's a fumble. Even if he does it on a kick return, but our wide receivers don't get points for doing things on a kick return.
Yeah.
So he's like, why is my guy getting a fumble for that? And I can't change it, but I get the complaints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As the commissioner, you know.
Steven's pointing at me because he is
Eating.
eating a bagel that we started the podcast late for because he needed to fill his little tummy.
Yes, sir. I gotta have that brain food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, actually, my next question is: if you could go back in time and give your younger self, when you first started playing fantasy football, a piece of advice, what is that one piece of advice you would give yourself?
It's a great question.
Papa's thinking right now.
Yeah, I mean, because you never get stuck with one thought that you have to go running back, and letting the draft come to you. Sometimes in the beginning, you was like, oh, I don't have a running back. Everybody else has one. I better get one, and kind of going off script, you know. And the other thing too is like, you know, when you think of when you're in a league of guys that know what they're doing too, don't send trade offers that are just so stupid that you turn the person off of right away. You know, people are smart, you know, and don't think that you're smarter than everybody else. And at least if you think you are, don't put offers out that think that the person's a moron, because then you kind of lose you get enemies in the league when you do that, especially if the person takes the trade. And
Right.
then the other guy, you know, you trades can ruin a league sometimes if you don't do, you know, because you want to play it the fair way, you know, you want to play. Trading is good, but it can also hurt people, you know. So just make sure you're not just giving somebody, you know, I don't know, you know, Joe Flacco for, you know,
For Michael Thomas?
yeah, something like that, and say, yeah, but I threw in another receiver. Come on, guy, you know, we all know.
I threw in the third string wide receiver on the Colts.
And he could be good, you know. you know,
He's got some potential.
Yeah, because everybody calls bullshit on that. Oh, well, sorry, Sean. Sorry, Sean. You know, my son tells me not to curse.
I'm just trying to be nice to the people that are listening to us. That's all.
You know, and the other thing too is have fun with it, man. I mean, have fun with it. Like, you know, and I'll tell you, this is the other advice that I want to give you youngers. It's don't gamble. Don't
I love
gamble.
Gambling.
Now, Shawnee,
I love it.
Good. You'll be out in the street. You know, fantasy can take the place of that love of what's going on, because if you're gambling through a bookie and you're doing things like that, they never lose. You lose. So this is where you can have fun with it. You know, so what? I don't care if your league fee was $1,000 at the beginning of the year. You're not going to lose more than $1,000, and you're going to play with it, right? So, and you have the potential to win. But don't go gambling, because all those lines and all that stuff happens the other way. And I younger in my life, I did get into a little bit of debt with a bookie, and I regretted it, and I just paid the bookie off, and then this kind of helped me replace that, because I never had to look back and do it, and I've seen lots of people get screwed up with gambling. So have fun with this, because this is
I've never
fun.
heard that story before.
This is fun. Well, your mother, you know what happened? I went into one weekend, I was up $2,000, so I was feeling like this is easy. Gambling is so easy. I left into the next weekend down $4,000. I did a $6,000 swing, losing, chasing it, and it was the Leon Lett game in the snow when he was running down against Miami, you know. And I remember that was on Thanksgiving, and I was recently married. She didn't know I was gambling, you know? And my wife came to sit on my lap during the game, and I was so enraged by it. I said, "Get off of me!" And I yelled at her, you know. And I'm like, and I regretted that, because gambling does take over your personality. But have fun with fantasy, because it is fun. Have fun busting your friends' chops in the leagues, and have just, you know, don't get in debt doing this stuff.
Right.
But have a ball with it.
This is the fun part of gambling. Like, this is the one where if you lose it you pay in the beginning, and if you lose it at the end, it's not a
So
big
what?
deal. You're right.
So what?
Exactly.
You're never going to lose more than what the league fee is, and you have fun with it.
Right.
Don't tack onto it. Don't do all that stuff. You know?
Except if you never lose.
Yeah, because who's that guy?
Me.
Yeah, okay.
Really? Last year would say otherwise. Didn't you get last?
No, I wasn't exactly last. I was
Second
close.
last.
I was close. So I didn't
Yeah,
technically
he
lose.
didn't mind losing because I paid his league fee.
Anyway, I mean, what else is there to talk about?
I mean, if you have any other fun stories or funny stories that you would like to share,
You know,
we're all ears.
I don't know. There's so many. We go on we would go on trips together, and we went to Cleveland together to watch games. We've been to Dallas together as a league to watch the games, and there's so much fun in doing that, in the togetherness, that in its laughs and stuff, that. And I don't remember every single event, of all that happens. But that's the way to do it, man. Is getting a league that you can kind of, especially you guys that are in your 20s right now. I mean, if you could tell me right now that you could be in a league with your friends and it's still alive, when it's still going when you're in your 50s, I think you'd sign up for that, because that's the fun, man. Like that's what I would say. That's what I would say it's all about. I mean, I'm hoping we're in our 70s still doing this. I mean, we have now gone to the point where we go to we get a hotel room every draft, a conference room, and we all get a hotel room that night so we can go to the draft, and we wake up, we spend all night looking at the board, and we all have a hotel room so nobody's driving after having too many, and you make an event out of it, because it's a fun thing, and that's the best thing I could tell you guys, is get a group of friends that love it like you love it, and try to stay together with it, because that's where it's at.
Right.
I got a great question.
Go for it. And I was, before you ask the question, if you don't mind, working off what your father was saying.
I don't mind at all. Just ask it.
Fantastic point. I think that getting a group of people to do it with is the best thing. And that's one of my favorite things about fantasy as well. It's just the togetherness of it. Yes, you're at odds and everything, and y'all want to win. But at the end of the day, it's fun between everyone. It's something you talk about. You make fun of each other for, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So people that really haven't done fantasy football in the past maybe listen to this and they're more inclined to try fantasy, which is something that's could bring you and give you a new friend group as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and don't bring in a jerk off into the league. Yeah. if everybody leaves the league, don't bring in somebody you don't really know that well, because they can screw up your league too.
Go ahead, Sean.
Is it my turn?
Yes, you can have your question if you would like.
My question is, obviously, this man that we're talking to got me into fantasy football. So my question is to Big Papa is, how rewarding is it to see your son get into fantasy football?
I think it would be more rewarding if you won more.
Well, I'm going to say, the fact that you're in my league and I watch how you play is very rewarding to me, because I beat you most of the time. Now, you know your stuff, Sean, and I think you're a good drafter. I think you take chances, and I think that's good. You're not afraid to go out on a limb. You're better than a lot of the guys that league that we're in is a bunch of bozos over there. That's not the league. That's not the league. That's that online league that we do. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That league is okay, and I do that league because you and James are in that league, and that gives us something to be connected with, which I hope I always do it with my sons too. Like, you talk about, right. You do it with your family and your friends, and listen, I'm not totally against the online things, because if, let's say, you had uncles that were in Wyoming and California, it gives you a way to come together, right. Even with being that far apart where you can't get there. But a live draft is always the way. That's what
right.
I mean.
Those are always the most fun.
Yeah, they're always the most fun.
Plus, now me and Steven are 21.
Yes.
That's right.
Because we did not take a sip of alcohol before that.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mom,
I know.
if you're listening to this, I did not drink any alcohol before I turned 21.
She's going to listen.
She's definitely going to listen.
My only regret as we do this Basement Sports Radio is that, I built this basement as my man cave.
Basement Sports Talk.
All right, whatever. I don't pay attention to everything you say, But I built this basement as my man cave, and somehow you took it over. So I'm not really all that happy with you. So you got about a week, and I'm kicking you out of the house. You might have to call Street Talk Radio in a second.
Anyway, I mean, we're coming on 30 minutes now. Anyway, I know that was our goal.
What a way to end it too.
Yeah, I'm learning that I'm getting kicked out of my house. That's a hell of a way to end it. But anyway, I had a great time.
That's when fantasy becomes reality.
Yeah. Right? There it is.
As you can see, my dad's got, he's always got his comments. You probably could see after this that's where I get it from.
If you listen to our last podcast,
I gave Steven a little burn sometimes. Nothing personal, of course. We love each other.
We have fun with it.
We love each other. At least I love him. I don't know if he loved me.
Well, sometimes. Depends how much it pissed me off that day.
But this is going to be the second podcast overall. first
Yeah.
Fantasy Saviors one, which is a throwback, really,
Throwback to when we did it at
that we
Marist
want to
Center
bring
Field.
back up.
That
Yep.
was our start.
That was our start at
Our
Marist
first
Center
podcast.
Field.
If you want, actually, on Spotify, or not Spotify,
It's on SoundCloud.
Yes.
If
on
you probably go
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud
Yes.
Center Field, there's previous
You can look up
episodes of
Marist
those
Center
ones.
Field or
That was
possibly
the
Fantasy Saviors.
That was the unpolished
That was-
Steven and
yes,
Sean.
That was
and
the unpolished.
I'm gonna go open up another beer because I don't know what you guys are talking about.
we're just trying to close the show in a timely manner, which we didn't do because the
Which we
last
did,
podcast
yes.
we spent 10 minutes on the closing. But anyway, we had fun.
Well, I just
today.
want to say thanks for having me in
You know,
my
you cut me
basement.
off.
In my basement.
You
Thanks
cut me
for
off.
thanks for having me in my basement. I appreciate that a lot. And maybe if you guys want to do another one of these and talk about like running a league and like lineup structures, scoring structures,
Right.
and draft structures, that could be. We have nothing to do right now while we're waiting for all these sports to come on. Maybe that could be another one.
Right. That'd be a very.
I don't
good
want to
idea.
tell you how to do your business, Shawnee, but
I'm the brains of this operations.
Here we
So,
go again.
but I'm always open to advice. I'm always open to advice. Hit the contact page, send us an email. I'll
I've
probably
always
read it.
said, Sean, you're a lot smarter than you look.
Anyway, this was a really fun episode to do. First Fantasy Saviors
First
one. We have
Fantasy Saviors, we'll have
plenty
plenty
more to come,
up.
and I'm
Yep.
sure we'll bring Big
And
Papa
once
on
fantasy
some
football's
more.
officially back,
Oh,
we'll bring back
we're gonna-
all of our advice.
Yes,
Our
sir.
start sits, everything.
Most of the time, I'm right on that. Steven's
Actually, I was pretty
Decent.
right last. Yeah, the year we did it, I had that. My week 16 was.
Stevens
all
is the
green.
stat guys. I'm the more tangible. This guy looks like he can do some business type of fantasy guy.
Yeah, but let me ask you something really fast.
What?
Before we end this.
Before yes, let's take 10
Picture
more
our
minutes.
track records here in fantasy football.
I wish you
who
would.
has a better one?
Let's not get into this now.
That would be me.
Anyway, guys, thanks for
Yes,
listening.
thank you.
Big Papa, one last
Thank you,
thing.
guys. Thank you, guys. Awesome.
Great closing.
What'd you say?
No, I just said awesome. Great closing. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, follow our blog, subscribe to our website.
We also have our previous podcast up on YouTube.
If you want to go check out the
Yes.
links in our Instagram bio, on our Twitter. So please go give it a listen. It was really fun. We just went with it. And hopefully this will be the second podcast, first fantasy one. And
we'll have plenty more.
we'll have plenty more,
ideas.
and we'll talk to you guys soon.